Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to our story time.
Happy St. George's Day to all you English folk out there. And
Yay!
everyone else, of course.
Very good. Um, the story today is called Boys on a Train.
Intriguing.
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 Oh, it's just started already. It's one of those days where I can't really get the words out that I want to get out. But hey ho, there you go. Please bear with me. So we left our last story um, with asking the question, so what was behind God's smile?
Mm.
Very intriguing. I've learned a new word. Not really. Anyway, Arnold, will you kick us off with what was behind God's smile?
God knows our strengths and our weaknesses, so He plans our lives with great care. He knows what we can and can't handle, so won't give us burdens too heavy to bear. When we took that jump into East Belfast in the spring of 1983, long time ago, we assumed that if everything worked out, we'd be there for as long as could be.
Yeah, because I think with CEF, we were expected to stay there for like 5 years,
At
weren't we?
least.
In the area
Yeah.
that we were working in. So the girls were well settled into their school,
Mhm.
the house jobs, renovations were all getting done. The house was, yeah, it was getting much more comfortable to live in. And we really felt that God had helped us to build up the work, as it were, with building up good news clubs, lots more children being reached. That was the aim of it, was to reach more children who wouldn't normally go to church. So we felt that that was happening. Relationships were great, especially with the Good News Club teachers, was great fun. And we touched a wee bit on that last week about the
Yeah.
kind of things we're involved in. But one thing we didn't really talk about that much was camp. And those were really special weeks. I mean, a lot of work, obviously,
Oh, a lot of
going
work,
to
but
camp.
really enjoyable.
And we reckoned we couldn't remember. And I messaged my friend Jennifer to see if she could remember how many children, but we're all getting on a wee bit and we can't remember. We think it must have been about 50 city kids that we
Yeah.
were able to take away. And these were kids who had gone to Good News Club during the winter season. And we had summer clubs in that in the summer, but then camp came during the summer as well. And so, yes, interesting taking away so many children who, yes, were basically unchurched, most of them, um, city children. Thankfully, we had a great team of workers that came with us. Most of them were Good News Club teachers, and so were involved with some of the children, which was great. Then their children, and it was such a special week to get to know the children better. But where we went to Kilkeel, which is a little seaside town. I think it's a fishing town, would you call it that?
Right in the mountains of Mourne,
Yeah.
where they sweep down to the sea,
You
as
gonna
the song says.
you gonna
I'll not
sing?
sing it though.
Oh, maybe sometime. Kilkeel County Down. And of course, we had the tents all with us and all the camping gear. Not at all. Who do you think we are? Do you know us at all? We don't do camping. Well, mind you, we
It
have
is Ireland, so they call it camp anyway.
camp, yeah. Um, we had done a wee bit of run the children's mission from a tent and from a caravan, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's enough of that for now. No, it was an absolutely brilliant camp house. It was called Seaview in Kilkeel. And it was so amazing, the accommodation for the children in dorms. I think there was about 10 dorms. And
Mhm.
of course, we had to have a worker, at least one in every dorm. And some of them had junior helpers in the dorm with them. And but not only that, all the food was cooked for us, and the food was
Mhm.
amazing.
Brilliant.
Really, really good.
These were 8 to 11-year-olds, weren't they? The
Yes,
children.
yes, you had to be eight to come
Yeah.
or nine. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah. Eh? So we had a packed program because we had to make sure we tired them out each day so they would hopefully sleep and settle quickly. That was why we needed a worker in each dorm.
I think we had a bit more energy in those days. We needed it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So um, So a packed program. In the mornings we would do it like a meeting similar to Good News Club program, but lots of fun. And we'd do a Bible story and teach a Bible story, what we could learn out of those stories, quizzes, songs, teaching a verse from the Bible, all that stuff. And of course, we had our Good News Club teachers with us, so we certainly didn't do a lot of the program. They were all doing it. We just had to organise it, but we did feel quite responsible for everything that was going on. And then jump to the evening. There was another meeting I loved those the missionary serial stories where you left it on a cliffhanger, and then I was going to say they came back. They had to come back the next night to hear the next bit. They were at camp. It was a full week, but a great opportunity to draw alongside the children and really get to know them and love them.
Yeah.
And so that was the program meeting in the morning. Then there'd be quite a long period of craft activity, and the things that can be made from the old-fashioned wooden clothes pegs are not to be undermined. Really, somebody within CEF designed these each year for all the camps to do, and it was amazing the things that they could make and then take home.
So creative.
Yeah, so that was good. And then the afternoons we had other activities, different activities going on, and great fun. One of the activities, Arnold, that stands out in my memory.
Carry on now.
I of course had to stay back at the house and look after our girls, or maybe take our girls somewhere around to help them hunt the worker. The workers had to get disguised as somebody and hide around the town of Kilkeel. And
Some
Arnold,
strange characters about Kilkeel. I think the folk were aware of what we were doing
yes,
just as well.
they knew it was Hunt the Worker Day for camp, all the different camps that went through the summer. So Arnold thought he would go as a nurse, and he had my nurse's cape, big navy cape on, and some kind of skirty type apparel. Can't quite remember what you wore for that, but what I do remember is you had black tights, and the story came back to me. We found Arnold right away. We could see his hairy legs through the tights. Now, if I'd have thought that one through, we could have shaved him, Arnold, before.
Yeah. I think they found me pretty quickly.
What was you going to say? They found me pretty.
Well, I think the police maybe would have found me first, arrested me.
So that's camp. And during the morning meeting, you would sneak out and go and do a dorm inspection, wouldn't
right.
you? And you were so particular
Mhm.
with those, because score a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that wasn't easy.
No, it
But
wasn't.
they were generally very good, the kids, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I seem to remember them leaving little treats for you on their pillow, or one day a teddy appeared.
Little bribes.
When one dorm heard what another one did, they got into competition, and then there's a trophy at the end of the week for the best
That's
dorm.
right.
So that was good fun. You would come in back at the end of the morning meeting, I think, and give your result of that. So, or maybe it was the end of the evening meeting. We might have just enticed it. You see, we don't really remember these things, but we just remember
Well,
they
it
were
is
fun.
what?
How many years ago?
Yeah.
80, 83,
Nearly
84,
40.
85.
It's
Ooh,
hard to
oh
believe.
la la. We are getting on a wee bit, Arnold. Okay, so let's carry on then and see what was behind God's smile.
But the very next year, on a trip to England, on a train journey for the wedding of a friend, a broken coupling in Preston station left us waiting with 2 hours to spend. Those hours were very important, for we chatted to 2 teenage boys. That conversation just would not leave us and threatened our peace to destroy. The lads from Stourbridge and Southampton had been to church just a handful of times, and our chat stirred concern in our spirits that then grew in our hearts and our minds.
And that was so different, Arnold, from what we were used to,
Yeah.
wasn't it? I mean, we were coming from Northern Ireland, where there's a high percentage of people have church backgrounds and certainly have the morals from that built into their lives and like a plumb line through their lives. And so it was great chatting to those boys. I mean, at first I remember not getting quite involved because it was my one opportunity to relax on the train and do some knitting. But anyway, we got involved with these two.
They were lovely lads,
They're great.
really friendly.
But it was interesting, those 2 hours we were stuck in Preston, which didn't seem particularly significant to us at the
No,
time,
no.
but something happened when we were talking to those boys. And it was funny because it reminded us of a lad, he was quite young then, Norman, that helped us in the children's work in East Belfast. Now, Norman had been to prison and he found God in prison. Now, that doesn't mean
That you go to prison to find.
to find God. It's just the expression that
But
people
lots
use.
do actually. It's amazing.
Do find
Lots
God, but
do.
that's not the reason they go. No,
Yeah.
but there's just great work goes on with some of the prisoners still to this day. But Norman did make a decision to follow Jesus when he was in prison, and when he came out, then he was really zealous. He
was
wanted to
brilliant.
change his life and help to change others' lives. So he was involved with us. A lovely, lovely lad, great fun, and he nearly became like part of our family.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
it did.
And at the time when, if you remember the story I told about the girl at the end that came, she needed a safe place to live, really, at the near the end of the last story. Um, well, she was in the house, the one that left the magic mushroom behind. She was in the house, and then we had this ex-prisoner as well. Christmas Day with them was great fun, but he was around a lot, and they really sparked each other with their sense of humour. There was nothing else; it was just really good friends, so that was great. Now, Norman went on. Then we heard that he'd gone on and ended up pastoring a church, and then he ended up pastoring a church very near where we lived.
Literally 50 yards away from where we lived.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so it was great to hear those stories of him really going on with God and making a difference. And there are stories of how things were built up in the church, and that's very encouraging for us.
Yeah.
But sadly, we heard recently that he had actually died. Now, I don't know how old he was, maybe in his 50s.
Late 50s, perhaps.
Yeah, but we don't know the story behind that. But we're just so glad he made a difference. And that's another reunion, Arnold, in heaven we can look forward to.
We'll find out what happens.
Okay, are we going back into the poem?
Our friends David and Miriam from Preston, whom we'd met on a Cornish holiday, visited us in our home in Belfast in what became a significant stay. We enjoyed their company and chatter, shared our story of the lads on the train. They said sadly that was normal in England, and that caused us concern once again. We were learning that God still speaks today through the Bible, which is his living word, and in learning to listen as we search for the truth, things became clear that once had been blurred. Our prayers for the children of Britain increased. Unknown to us, God was building some layers. When he saw a couple with a burden to pray, he made us the answer to our own prayers. One day in the Bible, we read these words: "You have stayed long enough at this place. Go to the western foothills and along the sea coast," and excitement made our minds race.
Well, western foothills and along the sea coast. Which sea coast would that be? Have you another couple of verses there?
Yeah, I think I have. Sorry about that.
And he was wearing his glasses. I'm just winging it here.
But we kept those thoughts between us and God as we were just settling in East Belfast. We wanted to check the thoughts were from God. If they weren't, they just wouldn't last. But they did. So we asked God to guide us. Let us know where he might want us to go. Was it France? Was it Scotland or England? At that point, we just didn't know.
Hold on, France? When did France come into the equation? But it was, France did, because with that lovely girl, Catherine Zabo, that came over and did some work experience with children with us. And of course, she was great company for the girls as well, but lovely, lovely girl. Sharon actually met her in Germany at another conference thing years and years later. So Catherine was from France, and of course we heard of the situation in France church-wise, and again there was a great need there. So France,
even more so than England, it seemed. So few churches, so few Christians, very secularized. society, France,
Hmm.
even compared to England.
Right. See, you remember big words like that, Arnold.
Well,
Important information that I just, yeah. I'm glad he's here. So, um, France had a coastline, western foothills, and so did Scotland.
yeah.
We got on that train in Scotland. So did England, where we met the lads on the train as we were travelling down through England. So where was it to be? We needed to ask God. Something was happening. It seemed like we were starting to shift. You stayed long enough at this mountain, it said in our readings, and we needed God to pinpoint where France, Scotland, England, anywhere. And to be honest, we were willing to go anywhere in the world. Interesting where we ended up, wasn't it? So we asked God to pinpoint the place, and out of the blue, we got a phone call from our friends David and Miriam in Preston, inviting us to do a mission in their church in Bamber Bridge, the Pentecostal church in Bamber Bridge, just down the road here. And that was what? You couldn't have made it much clearer, God.
Mhm.
That was a real pinpoint. So that was brilliant.
Yeah.
We'll say a wee bit more about that particular mission in a bit.
Okay. But when God is our focus, no matter what comes, we can trust Him wherever we are. There is no aimless drifting, only purpose in life when He is our guiding star. It seemed to us that our once Christian nation, which in times past honoured God and His ways, had somehow lost sight of its Maker and was no longer a nation that prays. Money, sex, power, and self promotion have become our main focus today, and like a pinball from one to the other, we hope to hit the jackpot one day. History proves when a nation honours God, God blesses that nation so much. That's why concern for these boys was growing, and our hearts were so deeply touched. David and Miriam's invitation to Preston was the first hint where we might go. We agreed to lead a children's mission there, but in truth, we still didn't know. John, our neighbour, painted a wonderful mural which depicted a bright jungle scene. Remember it well. So we prepared for the Bamber Bridge mission, and Jungle Journey was our chosen theme.
So it's actually John and Agnes. They were both so gifted with
Yeah.
art and still are. John does some amazing pencil drawings and things
John
still.
did art college
Yeah.
before he joined the civil service.
And so they put up a big double sheet on our wall, on our bedroom wall. It's okay, they didn't do it while we were in bed, sleeping, but they did that and started sketching it out and painting it. And it was the best wall in the house because there's no carpet at the edge. If you remember the story from last week about the carpet not going quite to the edge and the painted surround, so that was fine. So that took, quite a period of time to get that all done. It was unbelievable.
It was. It was.
And I am just so glad I didn't waken up as often in the night as I do now, Arnold, to see a snake looking out of a tree at me. Or the tiger.
Or the lion.
And the lion. Oh, and the elephant was amazing. They were so clever and so gifted. And what brilliant neighbours. And they're still friends today.
Yeah.
And we'd meet up at family weddings or different events when we go over to Northern Ireland.
We love you both, John and Agnes.
Yeah, we do. So that's them. Brilliant. God knew He was putting us beside, didn't He? Woo.
Our week with friends in that little church was amazing, as were the children we taught. What a privilege to tell them about Jesus and feel a joy that just couldn't be bought. Back home, we spoke to our national director, who said the leaders had been praying that day for more workers to help CEF England, so he couldn't stand in our way.
Isn't that bizarre? The very day we get in touch with them, that morning in the staff meeting, they'd been praying in the office about to go over the wall, meaning to go over to the British Isles, over to England and Scotland and Wales for more workers. And then we trot in with this vision that we believe God's given us. And David was so kind, wasn't he? He said some very nice things about how sorry he would be, and he did seem to mean it, to lose us, as it were, from Belfast. But you know, he was a man after God's heart, and he could witness with us the vision that God had put on our hearts. So he, yes, of course, gave us his blessing to leave so quickly. And then the application process started. Another interview. So we had to go over to Manchester, where the English offices were. They call it the British, the Great British offices were, for an interview. And we were surprised to hear when we got there that actually their vision wasn't for little towns like Preston, but they actually believed they had a vision for city hubs around Great Britain, to plant work in hubs, which you would think is a really good strategy. And yeah, we can see why they felt that. And here we breeze in with this, God's called us to Preston, you know, we believe this. And we didn't know if they would accept us or not. Would they listen to us? Would they make us go to, well, they couldn't make us go to Birmingham. We probably would have refused because we want to obey where God was sending us. We were pretty clear on that. And then, as we were getting the flight home, we noticed the name of the flight on the plane.
The name of the plane.
The name of the plane.
Yeah.
Which was?
County of Lancashire.
Yay! So that was encouraging.
So an interview in Manchester soon followed. Birmingham needed some workers, they said, but the plane's name was County of Lancashire. Hooray! And we felt drawn to Preston instead. That decision was made in early '86, a move they said would take a full year, but God's favour and timing had wrapped us up. And by August of that summer, we were here.
Hey, how on earth did that happen so quickly? Like from the beginning of the year to the summertime?
That was quick.
Did we get chucked out? You'll have to tune in next time to find out exactly what happened.
Thanks for watching.
Bye for now.
Bye.